Hey, what's up? My name is Anne, and I'm 16 years old. I have a story that taught me that relationships between men and women are not that simple. This is how I found out that my mother cheated on my dad, and he knew about it. I'll start from the beginning. Recently, my little sister was born, and our life changed. I had no idea that raising a child was so expensive. All those diapers, toys, strollers. Dad used to be a freelancer, and he made enough money to support all of us. But now Mom had to find a job too. So she became a realtor. She's selling real estate. And that's how we began to live. Dad works at home and babysits my little sister. I'm trying to help with everything I can, and Mom rides around the city all day and shows people houses. At first I was angry with my mother for spending too much time at work. Besides, the commissions she received were very small. But then I accepted it. After all, she was trying to make money for our family, and everything was okay, until one moment. I had a dance at school, and we agreed that Mom would pick me up that evening. And guess what? All my friends had been picked up by their parents, and my mom was still nowhere to be found. And she also wasn't answering her phone. I stood outside for almost an hour. And then this big black Jeep drove up, the window opened, my mother looked out, and told me to get in and sit down. When I got into the car, I saw an unfamiliar man sitting behind the wheel. The whole way my mother talked to him quietly and giggled. I thought, she's trying to be polite because this man was giving us a ride. But then I noticed a very important detail. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. So, what is happening here? Who is this guy, and what kind of relationship does he have with my mother? When we arrived and got out of the car, I asked my mom who that was. She said to ignore him, that he was just her colleague. Ignore? You flirt with another man while Dad's sitting at home and I'm supposed to ignore it? I decided to ask her about it at dinner in front of my dad, so he could hear it all. I started from a distance. Mom, what happened to your car? Why did you pick me up in that other one with some random man? My mother answered, Oh, something happened to the engine. There was steam coming from the hood in the middle of the road. I had to call the tow truck and take it to get repaired. Fortunately, my colleague was not far away and agreed to give us a lift. Looks like she's got it covered. I was getting angry and just asked her straight, Why aren't you wearing your wedding ring? It looked like this question put my mother in a very awkward position. She looked at me for a few seconds with annoyance, then replied, I tried to deal with the car by myself first and took off my rings to keep them clean. I looked at Dad, but it seemed he wasn't even listening. He looked sad and tired. I said, Dad, what do you think about it? But then my mother interrupted me, said that dinner was over, and sent me to my room. From that moment on, I began to suspect that the man in the Jeep was more than just a colleague. I decided to not tell my father about my suspicions yet. There was no need to upset him if I don't have any clear evidence. The next morning at breakfast, there was tension between me and my mom. She even tried to avoid eye contact with me. We just sat in silence. And suddenly, her phone rang. She said it was for work and that she had to answer and went into the bedroom. I knew it wasn't just for work. I wanted to eavesdrop on the conversation and I came up with a brilliant idea. I went to my sister's room and turned on the baby monitor. It works on both sides, so I could hear their conversation pretty clear. Mom was very nice. I had no doubt she was talking to that colleague. And I managed to hear a very important detail. She said, At Rossi's at 8? Kisses. See you. Rossi's is a gorgeous restaurant downtown. So, you were going on a date, Mom, huh? Well, I'm definitely going to ruin it. So, I got the address and the time of their meeting. I decided to get there half an hour later to catch them in the middle of their date. When I arrived, I saw my mother's car and the Jeep of the man who picked me up from the dance. So, your car broke down, huh? I was very angry. I went to the window and guess what I saw? My mother and this man having a romantic dinner with candles and wine. I stood there for a minute and suddenly he leaned over to my mother and kissed her. Oh, I couldn't hold my anger anymore. I ran into the restaurant and started yelling at my mom. How dare you do that? Dad's alone looking after your baby while you're out on dates? How dare you do this to him and to me? At this moment, the man stood up and asked in confusion, What? Dad? Mary, you said that you were divorced. Why did you lie to me? We just stood in silence for a second. Then Mom said, "Rob, I'm married. I have 2 daughters. I'm sorry. I should have told you before." Then my mother took me by the hand, led me outside, put me in the car, and we went home. During the trip, I only said one thing. You have to tell everything to Dad, right now. When we arrived, I shouted from the doorway, "Dad, Mom has something to tell you." Mom began to explain. She found out I was having an affair with a man I wanted to sell a house to. Dad sighed sadly and said that now it was the time for a difficult conversation. We sat down and my parents told me everything. It turned out that Dad knew that Mom was having an affair. It's because he let her do it. Mom said that she was trying to sell a really expensive house to this man, but he was unyielding and stubborn. With this commission for selling this house, we could live for a whole year. So Mom asked Dad if she could seduce this man to make him more amenable. And now the deal had gone wrong because of me. But I was still angry and confused. And how did you think this date would end? Would you go to his house? Huh? But Mom didn't say anything. Then Dad intervened and said that it was a joint decision, and it was hard for him too. So I have to be mature enough to accept their choice. I still don't know how to feel about it. On one hand, my mom was dating other men. On the other hand, she was doing it because she loves her family. It's so weird. They told me that they admitted it was a lousy idea and they completely regret it and wouldn't do it again. It's a good lesson for all of us. I learned that relationships can be really complicated. And my parents realized that family is more important than money. How would you react if your parents had made a similar choice? Write about it in the comments. Thank you for watching, and do not forget to like this video and share it with your friends.